What's up guys, and welcome back to Second Gen Tacoma Life. It's been a while since I've posted, but we're back and now we're going to lift the Tacoma. We have all the parts that needed and we're ready to just dive into it. So let me show you what the parts are and what we're doing with here today. So the lift is, or leveling kit, is a 2-inch in the front, and it is a TRD, the TRD factory lift kit. It's a 2-inch lift in the front. These are Bilstein 5100s with a TRD tune. So there's the front, and then there's the rear, and there's a 1-inch block to go along with it. And while it's all apart, I'm also going to do I have some OEM upper control arms that we're going to put on while the whole truck's apart. So we're going to just do that all at the same time, so it'll be good to go. Then we're going to run some new wheels and tires, being the AGP, excuse me, and these are kind of a TRD Pro knockoff. I honestly like them a little better because they're a lighter silver color. And then we were running 265 7017 Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. So with that, let's dive straight into it. So we've already started by taking off the sway bar here, disconnecting it. And so that should allow us soon, shortly, to be able to flip this up. But the first thing we have to do is disconnect the upper control arm so we can move this piece down and drop this whole assembly down. And then we'll be able to later on take out this bottom bolt here and get the shock out by also disconnecting these top three. And then even later on, after we get all that stuff out, we'll disconnect this big bolt, and this will be the hard part. We'll have to maneuver it out through the engine bay to get the upper control arm out. We'll also have to disconnect the brake line at some point, or I believe this is the ABS wire. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the upper control arm and we'll check back in. So I pulled the bolt off here, and it just was a simple pin you had to pull out, then take this off. And now I'm going to tap it here with a mallet and see if I can't get this to drop down slowly so I can then take it off completely. So after I tapped it, I ended up tapping on this side. After just like 5 taps, this whole thing dropped off of here. I do have a jack underneath it to support the assembly here. And then I was able to get the sway bar up out of the way. So now I can get to this bolt down here, and I'll undo these 3 up here, and we should be able to get the shock out no problem. So I'll come back after I get those loose. So I've loosened all of these top bolts now here, and I left one on, just a few threads left. So when I took this bottom bolt off like I did, so now the whole shock's loose. But that just kind of prevented it from all falling down, nor the twine that's just holding up the, I didn't want to put too much tension on these lines over here. But now we're ready to pull the shock out, so I'll just go ahead and undo this bolt, and we're gonna go ahead and pull it out. So it should kind of just have to fight it out. I might lower this down a little bit. Just try to maneuver it out. Like so. Like that. So now that we have the shock out, we're going to go ahead and take the upper control arm out. We're just going to do these 2 bolts, and we might have to, we'll take these pops out so we can get up in here. We might have to bend this towards me a little bit so we can slide the bolt up and through the engine bay. So we'll do that and I'll check back in. So we were able to get the bolt out through here. We ended up having to cut some and do quite a bit of grinding right there. But we got it out, and the clip should go back in. This piece should cover it all up, so it'll be fine. And so the control arm should be able just to slide out now, like that. And we're ready to put the new one in. So we got the new control arm in, and we got the bolt back through. And now we're going to torque it down. This gets torqued down to 85 foot-pounds, and then we'll move on to putting the shock back in. So here's a side-by-side of the new shock and the old shock. As you can see, the new one is longer and the spring is more compressed. So we'll go ahead and put it on and check back in then. Okay, we got the shock in, got the bolt started on the top. We're going to torque these down to 47 foot-pounds and this bottom one to 61 foot-pounds. And then we should be good to go, and we'll just start reconnecting the control arm to the support here, and we'll reconnect the sway bar. So we'll check back in a minute. So we have both shocks in and upper control arms on both of the sides. So we're ready to put the support for the upper control arm back and the sway bar back in that. The upper control arm gets torqued down to 81 foot-pounds and the sway bar gets torqued down to 52. So we're gonna go ahead and put that back on. So we got everything torqued down and it's all pretty good to go now. Everything's good. The last thing we just gotta do to button it up is put the ABS clip back on here, bolt that down, and then we'll put the wheel back on, drop her down, and we'll be moving on to the back. So we'll talk to you then. So now we're on to the back, and what we're gonna do is first, so we have a jack supporting the diff there. And I think what we're gonna do first is just probably take off the shocks. So we'll just unbolt these and this down here, and then we'll pull the shock out. And then it'll be free floating, so we can undo these 2 U-bolts holding the leaf down. And then we'll be able to drop the diff and the axle more and slide our cast iron 1-inch block in there and put the new bolts on and put our new shock in. We see the new shock there, the block, and the new U-bolts. So should be good. We'll get started and we'll come back. So we got the U-bolts and the shocks out. The shocks were kind of a pain in the butt. We ended up just cutting the top of the bolts because we won't be needing them again. And the U-bolts just came right out. Now we're going to drop the diff or the whole axle down so we can slide a block in right here, and we'll throw the U-bolts back on, put the shocks back in, and it'll be good to go. So yeah. So we got the shocks in, got the bolt in the bottom. This is going to be at 74 pound-feet, tightened down. The U-bolts are at 37. You can see we slid the block in there and the U-bolts went in no problem. It's all pretty good fit and finish, and this gets tightened down to 15 pound-feet. So with that, and then it'll be off to the tire shop to get a quick alignment, and then we'll have the grand reveal ready. All right, so we're back. It's been a few days since I filmed the last bits, but the truck's all done now. It went off to the tire shop about 2 days ago, I guess it was, and they aligned it. They transferred my TPMS into the new wheels, and then they mounted and balanced the tires for me. And so it's all set to go now, and I've been driving for a couple days, and I absolutely love how it looks and drives. So without further ado, you can see it here. I think it turned out great, in my opinion. I like the offset. It's not too much, but it's a little more than what it was with these AGP wheels. You can see up in there the new shock kind of just sits right up in there. You can see the TRD logo. From the top here, you can see the new shocks and the upper control arm. I think that looks great. I just really like the look. I think these are 265, excuse me, 7017, and so they're an inch bigger than stock, and I think they fill out the wheel wells really well. I've had no issues with rubbing, and the reason I went with the 265 instead of a 285 is because it's the factory width, and so it's not going to ruin my gas mileage like a 285 would. And I still think it looks great. It fills out the wheel wells well, and yeah, I just really like it. I'm pretty pleased with it. And I've had, since this is a 3rd gen suspension, but since the 2nd and 3rd gens are the same, I've had no issues with it. You can see here, there's the wheel. You can see the shock back in here. New shock with the block right there. I honestly think that it rides better than stock. That's just my opinion. These shocks are a monotube, so they're a little thicker. I think they're like a 2-inch shock. And I think it rides a little smoother. I think it takes the bumps a little better. It's a little stiffer in the corners. So for most lift kits, like if you did a spacer lift, I've heard most of the time that destroys your ride quality. But honestly, I think this has improved mine. And I just like how it looks a lot. I think these wheels are the right way to go. I like the more silvery color with my darker color truck. I think it's a good color combination, and I'm just pretty pleased with it all in all. I really like it. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little sporadic, kind of all over the place, but we got it pulled together, and it's been a while since I posted, but now I got this done, and like my life's calmed down a little bit. I'm gonna be able to post more scheduled. And so subscribe if you enjoyed this video so you can stay tuned for the next ones. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's 2nd Gen Tacoma Life. I kind of am revamping the format on that a little bit just to kind of change it up a bit. But now they have the truck done, I think it looks absolutely great. Future projects, I might do a TRD Pro grill. I'm undecided on what to do, but I would definitely paint match it like this one is and then shove the TRD Pro in the center. I'm toying with the idea of a 2.5 gen face swap, but I honestly kind of like the more rounded look right now. So we'll see where that goes. I think some rock sliders or side steps might be in the future as well, but we got a whole bunch of projects coming our way. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.